Hello, this is Jimmy Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Censored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Censored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have The Simpsons faceplants with misguided liberal propaganda, Europe worship from Reason TV on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, stuff like this is increasingly why I think it's time to kill off the adult animated comedies. Shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park have been increasingly scuffed over the past decade, and now even the Daily Wire is trying to get in on them, with their new show on Mr. Bertram. I said, historically, shows like, Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, they've been good about going after both sides of the political spectrum, but it's no secret that all of them increasingly go after one side more than the other. I kind of blame the Hollywood bubble. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have prices are very low because Chinese companies don't need to think about profits. They are subsidized by the state. Biden from APnews.com by Ragnar OKXG. And I said 10 cents investment in Reddit is really paying off, really seems to be paying off. And I linked to a Twitter post from Reddit Lies. And that was about how the front page of Reddit had a post that that China built a high-speed rail line network over 10 years, 23,900 upvotes or so. And I said it seems like that you're praising the Chinese companies don't need to think about profits because the state runs them, and that you wish they would do that over here in the U.S. too. That's what I'm getting, because the user has the Libertarian Socialist thread, the dude who posted the article, and ultimately, I think that's just why but that's why you see a lot of China shills on Reddit, and I may never post about that later, which we'll talk about. Then we have PA Parental Rights Movement mom sentenced in Bucks County underage drinking party from PhillyBurbs.com by Swampinky Dan. And I said, we talked about this before, and I linked to a post about the same story from December of last year when she first got charged. So I'll say the same thing I said last time. She showed it's been giving them hormones instead, sarcasm. That's the thing is, the left, they don't want people to have alcohol or any other drugs, but they're completely fine with giving kids hormones, even though that the hormones will probably be worse for them in the long term. And I just thought that was interesting, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have ruling lets government trespass on 96% of private land in the U.S. from the Institute for Justice on YouTube by Ninja Lover. And I said, government can trespass on 100% of private land since it has a monopoly on legal use of force. They can pretty much do whatever it wants to and not be held accountable for it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, will Biden actually lock Trump up? And if so, will Trump get a 6-teardrop tattoo? From American Journal on Twitter, and I posted that, and I said, I don't think they can get away with it since Trump has too much social capital currently, but I've been surprised before, Ultimately, I think, if they do send him to prison, he's just people will just see him as being too persecuted, and I think that'll really be a way to bring out the vote for him, so that's why I don't think they'll do it unless they want him back in the White House, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have U.S. halts funding to virus research organization linked to pandemic probes by Lemon Limelight. And they said from the Washington Post, U.S. halts funding to virus research organization linked to pandemic probes. Federal officials Wednesday suspended funding to U.S. research organization EcoHealth Alliance linked to investigations about the novel coronavirus's origins, saying the move is necessary to protect public interest, given the organization's failure to monitor virus experiments in a Chinese lab before the pandemic. According to the Department of Health and Human Services, EcoHealth failed to adequately monitor and report on risky virus experiments in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, violating terms of its federal grant and biosafety requirements. EcoHealth Alliance faces accusations that its experiments with bat coronaviruses could have contributed to the development and spread of SARS-CoV-2. EcoHealth and its defenders have said the organization is being scapegoated and that no evidence exists linking its work to the pandemic. EcoHealth President Peter Zazik misled the public during the early stages of the pandemic when he condemned conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin. In reality, a laboratory origin for SARS-CoV-2 was always a legitimate scenario, never a conspiracy theory. Lying to the public is one thing, but trying to deceive the Department of Defense may have crossed the line. Investigators have also focused on a 2018 proposal by the EcoHealth to experiment on bat coronaviruses, with Daszak suggesting that the work could have been performed at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, according to documents first obtained by U.S. Right to Know, a nonprofit that has probed the origins of the virus. Federal officials at DARPA rejected the proposal, and EcoHealth officials have said they did not separately pursue the work detailed in that proposal. The 2018 proposal in question, aka Project Diffuse, planned to conduct risky health research on bat coronaviruses, but these experiments were prepared to occur in part in Wuhan with fewer safety precautions that required in the U.S. American scientists appear to have concealed this from DARPA in order to evade any national security concerns about doing high-level biosecurity work in China. And equally controversial is the proposal's intent to emphasize spike proteins for furin cleavage sites to improve transmissibility in humans. SARS-CoV-2 is the only known embedded coronavirus of furin cleavage site. At minimum, maybe Daszak has spoken about the planned research from Wuhan involving this unique feature. Daszak's deception, along with other scientists and public officials, adds to growing and dangerous minds' mistrust in science. Our government's lack of oversight until now has been shameful, but better late than never, I guess. And I said in response, let's go. I'm very glad that we're holding the scientists accountable here for their misuse of public trust and funding and greatly contributing to the distrust in the institutions. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, did you know Yale had a satellite campus in Singapore? The joint venture of a new humanities college wasn't renewed. It had become a hotbed of a certain kind of radical activism that this country was wise enough to see as self-destructive, from Melissa Chan on Twitter, and now her quote tweeting and wokeness. Singapore's Prime Minister Hisin Long believes wokeness and PC culture erode societies and the institutions it infects. He wants it to stay out of Singapore. And I said in response, I think the left took the lessons that it learned during World War II a little too far. The Nazis were regressive jerks, but that doesn't mean make what is labeled as progressive an inherent good like they seem to think it does. Clamoring for the destruction of all traditional societal institutions simply because they aren't progressive enough for your liking isn't how you build a great society, it's how a society commits suicide. I personally don't think Singapore is a libertarian paradise, and I don't really care for universities since only bad ideas seem to come out of them, but I agree that they shouldn't be closed down regards to free expression reasons. But that being said, I do agree that, what a lot of the left is endorsing right now is akin to societal suicide, because they want to get rid of all the institutions. They want to get rid of the nuclear family, they want to get rid of private ownership, they want to get rid of pretty much all the traditional style institutions and I don't think that's very libertarian either. I think each person should use whatever institutions they feel like, but I don't think they should be forcing people to use institutions if they don't want to, and that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think that's what, yeah. Then we have Supreme Court robust challenge to Consumer Protection Agency from NBCNews.com. And that's by Ninja Lover. And they added, the court ruled that the funding structure in which Congress does not directly appropriate funding does not run afoul of the Constitution's appropriations clause, which requires that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury without congressional approval. And I personally would kind of disagree with that. I don't think we should have consumer protection agencies. Definitely not government-funded ones, I would say. I think each consumer should be responsible for their own consumption and not that of the state. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have NC State votes to ban people from wearing masks in public for health reasons from WECT.com by Structure 5 City. And they added, I wonder if the courts will chastise NC Republicans when they slap this down from being blatantly unconstitutional. And I said, definitely government overreach here. And that's my thought on that issue. You wear whatever you want to. We talked about that in the last episode too. Then we have Florida Republican votes for a program to give education funds to religious schools with no oversight, is upset when it's used for a religion he doesn't like, from Baton 13. That's crosswords from the Leopards Ate My Face subreddit. And I didn't comment on that one, but ultimately that just goes to show you that you shouldn't be willing to spend funds all willy-nilly like that. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Texas governor pardons ex-Army surgeon convicted of killing Vietnam protester in 2020 from abcnews.go.com by FlimsyL5563. And, I personally think, I see both sides of it. Ultimately, the other guy was waving his gun around and blocking the road, but I don't think that justifies what's his name? I think it was Daniel Perry. Let's see, it was, Daniel Perry who killed Garrett Foster. It's justified what Daniel Perry does. It's not like Calvert now, where it's a more cut and dry case self-defense. I could see you arguing in self-defense here because he might have fear for his life, but even then, I think this is just he wasn't being used. Direct force wasn't used against him yet, so that's I can see really either side here, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have ranked choice voting close to being illegal in Louisiana from LouisianaIlluminator.com by Farr and Chimney, and I don't think that's good. I think if people want to use ranked choice voting, they should be able to. I think people should be able to use whatever voting system they want. That's why I'm really against a centralized voting system and centralized democracy, because everyone's gonna be forced to use one voting system, and I don't think that's too libertarian. I think everyone should use whatever voting system they want and have whatever government they want, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have YouTubers who sold themselves to China from Ghost Scum on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, this video is about YouTubers, but I've noticed more and more Redditors up China's ass as well. Only like with everything else, they do it for free instead of getting paid. China is paying Western influencers to make the country look good. I think it might be after from Reddit as well. I remember in 2019 when the website was all about free Hong Kong and the Uyghur genocide, but since then it has moved on to other things. Now you see stuff like how fast China built a high-speed rail network on the front page. And that just goes to show you that, normally Reddit is against slave labor, but interestingly that suddenly disappears in regards to China and high-speed rail. So, yeah, I definitely do think, Reddit's just increasingly astroturfed. Everyone always says Russia propaganda, but they never seem to ever care about any other kinds of propaganda, like Chinese propaganda or DNC propaganda. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have, this Alabama AG won't stop at the state line to prosecute abortion from WAPO.st from Baton Fertan. And, I definitely don't think that's very good. And, I think we know we should have states' rights inside states, not states' rights over other states. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have DC is making childcare more expensive without tangibly helping kids from CoachO'Brien.com by Ninja Lover. And yeah, that definitely, I would agree that is not good. I think ultimately people should have whatever childcare they want, but I don't think the state should be involved in childcare at all, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the Satanic Temple is taking on Christian nationalism in schools from NBCNews.com by Ragnar OKXP, and they said just have to love how Christian nationalists treat the Bible and the Constitution as a choose your own adventure book. And I definitely do think that goes against I think we do need to not have too many Christian stuff in schools. So I think that kind of goes against the separation of church and state. I think if schools do want to have Christian stuff, they should be able to. But ultimately, I think they should be able to have whatever religious stuff they want in there, I guess. Then we have Louisiana becomes first state to require the Ten Commandments to be posted in classrooms from NOLA.com by Donald Key. And I personally think if people want to have the Ten Commandments in their classroom, they should be able to. But ultimately, I guess it depends what each person wants and what everyone's willing to justify, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have abortion rights amendment qualifies for South Dakota ballot from NBCNews.com by Ninja Lover, and I definitely think that's good. Hopefully, every state should decide on whether it wants abortion legal or not, and that's my thoughts on that issue. And finally, we have brothers charged with stealing $25 million in Ethereum in 12 seconds. Cryptocurrency heist exploited transaction violation process from Tom'sHardware.com by Frosty Slowman. And I definitely would agree that's not good. But I don't think people should be stealing from other people, regardless of what object they're stealing or which currency they're stealing. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think let's see if there's anything. No, there isn't, so I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.